Hi everyone. I'm going to be reviewing To Kill a Mockingbird chapters 1 through 5, and each chapter will hopefully be 10 minutes or less. So here we go. By now, if you've done the background reading on To Kill a Mockingbird, you know that it is in the point of view of Scout. Scout is an adult looking back at 3 summers that her and her brother experienced. She is telling the story in terms of all the events that led up to her brother Jem breaking his arm. So being told as an adult, looking back at childhood. Now there's an advantage to that because she knows the ending of the story and she knows how all those little events kind of intermingled with each other. So cause and effect. By now you also should know that the book takes place in the Deep South, Macomb, Alabama, during the Great Depression. Now, Harper Lee doesn't come right out and tell you the book starts in 1933. What she does do is has the character of Scout say, recently we have been told that there was nothing to fear but fear itself. And if you studied Franklin Delano Roosevelt at all in social studies, then you know that was part of his inaugural address. It's important that Scout or Harper Lee introduces fear right in chapter 1 because that is going to be a theme that runs throughout the book in part 1 and in part 2. Now, Scout lives with her father, Atticus. He is a widow. Her brother, Jem, who's older than her, and Calpurnia is their black housekeeper. She doesn't live with them, but she's definitely the female role model for Scout. Now, this she describes as a tired old town. It's old in terms of people, and it's tired because they've been going through the Depression. There's not a lot of excitement in this town until Dill Harris shows up. Now, Dill is also going to be with us from beginning to end. And his real name is Charles Baker Harris, but his nickname is Dill. Harper Lee uses a lot of symbolism in her names, and we're not going to go into it, but maybe you can just think about it yourself. Atticus, Calpurnia, named after other people, characters. Think about what a scout does. Jem, Jeremy, but is called Jem, and Dill, because Dill is kind of short and chubby like a dill pickle. But he comes to spend the summer with his aunt, and he gives them this idea to get Boo Radley out of the house. Now, the kids have grown up with Boo Radley, I should say the legend of Boo Radley. It's like us growing up in Miller Place with McNulty's. It's not a big deal. It's just part of our everyday life. But if you had somebody that came from, say, New York City, and you took them to McNulty's, and they got that whole little Miller Place pond, cute rural vibe, they would be so excited. Well, Dill is really excited about the legend of Boo Radley. We need to discuss that legend of Boo Radley because he is going to be with us from beginning to end. So here we go. Arthur Radley got himself in trouble. He was with a bunch of teenage boys. They did something stupid. They got caught, and the judge was going to send them to a reform school. Mr. Radley didn't want his son with the stigma of being sent to a reform school. It would be like if you were sent to jail and then you came back, there's going to be that negative stigma. So Mr. Radley made a deal with the judge that he was going to take care of the situation on his own. Well, that's worse. There's an old song that I always think of in the scene. No one knows what goes on behind closed doors. Mr. Radley was worse than if Arthur had gone to a reform school. And so he has been locked away in his house for, I think it's 18 years. And think about solitary confinement. Think about what the coronavirus social distancing is doing to you right now. We'll multiply that by 18 years. So the house is sad. It's broken down. The Radleys don't come out. They do not socialize. And there's just a lot of myths and a lot of legends, like Arthur Radley eats raw squirrels and pecan trees are poisoned. And so everybody gets afraid of the house, including Scout and Jem. But when Dill comes, he dares them to try to get Boo out of the house. Okay, very quickly, just here's the description. Jem said that Boo was about 6.5 feet tall and that he dined on raw squirrels and cats he could catch. His hands were blood-stained. There was a long, jagged scar that ran across his head, and his teeth were yellow and rotted. His eyes popped out of his head, and he drooled most of the time. So there's our description, and we'll see if that description is accurate as the novel goes on. Now, Dill dares Jem to touch the house. Think about when you've been dared. Okay, did you accept it or not? Well, Dill does. Jem touched the Radley house because Dill wore him down for days. Dill told Jem that folks in Meridian weren't as scared as folks at Mako. Dill also told Jem that he'll swap him the Gray Ghost if he touches the house. Now, the Gray Ghost was a comic book, and think about the conscious choices that Harper Lee is making. She calls that comic book The Gray Ghost, and the character's nickname is Boo Radley, and all of this is going to tie in together. Now, when the kids are running back and forth, I should say when Jem runs to touch the house, the kids think they see a shutter move. And if that is true, think about the inference, think about the implication of that. Got it? Somebody from inside the house is watching the kids, and hopefully you can figure out who it is. So that pretty much sums up chapter 1. We get the background history of the Finch family. We learn that Atticus did not follow the tradition of his family. He left Finch's Landing. He became a lawyer. His younger brother became a doctor, never came back to Alabama. And Atticus is already showing us that he is a man that thinks for himself. He doesn't follow tradition. He's true to what he believes and wants to do for himself. The kids call him Atticus, not Dad, not Pop. Never specifically said, but he treats them as equals, not like children. So there goes an explanation for why they call him Atticus. And I guess that's it for now. Trying to keep it down to 10 minutes so I can actually post it. And stay tuned because there'll be another little video for chapter 2. Hope you're all doing well. Keep reading. And send me questions on chat if you have them. Here we go.